Hello, I'd like to talk a little bit more about chords before I go on to chord progressions. We're going to touch on inversions and major and minor chords. Now, I don't think inversions are all that important for fiddle players, but you're going to hear the term sooner or later, so let's just go over it and get it out of the way. Now, you recall the triad is made up of 3 notes. That's a D triad. The D, the 3rd note of the scale, and the 5th note. So we have the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. When you play Soldier's Joy, you're playing these notes. Now the order in which they're played doesn't matter for inversions. What is important is what is the lowest note. In this case, it's the D. That makes it the root position for the triad. Now for the first inversion, we'll take the case of Flop-eared Mule. From the beginning notes, that's outlining a G chord. There's B, G, D, and finally the B. Is the lowest note before it goes to a different chord. That B is the 3rd of the scale of G. It's the 3rd in the triad, that is the interval of the 3rd. And the D is the 5th. The triad is spelled G, B, D. This being the lowest note, that means it's in the first inversion because the 3rd note is the lowest note. That is the note of the 3rd is the lowest note. These mathematical terms can be a little confusing, but hang in there, pretty soon it'll be second nature. Another example would be the second inversion, and we only have 2 that we have to be concerned about. If you have 3 notes, they can only be one of 3 possibilities as the lowest note. In the second inversion, it is the 5th of the chord that is the lowest note. Take, for example, St. Anne's Reel. It starts right off on the A string, then plays the D and the F sharp. That outlines a D triad starting from the 5th. The note which is the highest note in the triad, that means it is the second inversion. As it goes on, that's outlining a D triad in the root position. But here, that's outlining a G triad in the second inversion, because here's your B, here's a D, G, going down to the D. That's the 5th in the G triad, and that means it's a second inversion because it starts from that 3rd note of the triad. Let me just say again, I say the second note of the triad or the 3rd note. The second note is the 3rd of the scale, and the 3rd note of the triad is the 5th note of the scale. The second note is the 3rd in terms of the interval from the root, and the 3rd note in the triad is a 5th in terms of the interval from the root. I hope that helps a little bit. I know it sounds crazy. Okay, let's go on to major and minor chords. Major and minor chords can be expressed in terms of the interval distance in terms of steps from the root to the 2nd note of the triad to the 3rd note of the triad. Here's the root, here's a whole step, here's another whole step. So we go up a major 3rd, which is 2 whole steps. From the major 3rd, we go up a half step in terms of the scale, and then another whole step to reach the 3rd note of the triad, the 5th note of the scale, which is a 5th above the root. That means the first 3rd is a major 3rd, and the second 3rd is a minor 3rd, because it's a step and a half a half step plus a step, a whole step plus a half step, whichever way you wish to look at it. The first one was 2 whole steps. The next one was a half step and a whole step. Sometimes you'll look at a minor third in terms of a whole step plus a half step. Take, for example, the E minor triad built into the same key as the D major. We start with the second note of the scale. We go up a whole step and then a half step, and there we have a minor third. From there we go to a whole step, another whole step, and we have the major third. That's a reliable way of determining whether any chord is a major or minor chord. But truly speaking, you'll get used to hearing it. I believe that you can hear major minor chords without determining or saying exactly what they are in terms of whole steps and half steps. They just have a quality that's different. That's minor. That's major. That's major. That's minor. And you can really hear the difference, can't you? But as far as knowing exactly what they are in terms of steps, the program of 2 whole steps for a major third, then a half step plus a whole step for a minor third, or a whole step plus a half step for a minor third, either way of looking at it, that will help you understand and determine exactly what kind of triad you're dealing with.